All right, so Suns Wolves, the crazy ownership series. KFC, I am just filled with hatred for myself. I loved Minnesota all year. I was so excited to I even had a bet with them versus the Celtics at 16-1 that I did like 10 days before the playoffs started. And then the Suns beat the Wolves twice in 9 days. And they also won that Sacramento game where they won by 1. And I was out on the Suns. I was like, there's something wrong with this team. I don't think they necessarily like each other. This feels like a team that could be 1, 2, 3 Cancun potentially. And then they sucked me back in. And by the time the playoffs started, I'm like, they're just a bad matchup for Minnesota. They're going to beat them. And then you watch the game today. Game 2, a must win. And you watch how the other game 2 road teams responded. And then you watch what they did. It was the opposite of a response. And in the second half, they just looked miserable. And I wasn't there. I would have loved to have been there. But even TV body language, Dr. Bill was like, I don't like what I'm seeing here. I don't see a team that's connected. I see a team that's ready to roll over and go back to Phoenix. And I went from thinking this team was going to potentially beat Minnesota. Minnesota wasn't ready, to now wondering if Phoenix might just check out here because they got the Edwards game that they needed today. Edwards kind of stunk today. Like for him, he didn't play that well. But McDaniels steps up and just Minnesota just seemed like they were playing harder. And Phoenix just seemed your turn, my turny, and it was bad. What were your takeaways?
My takeaways were, first of all, let's add context to it. I felt the same as you entering the series. That's just a bad matchup for the Wolves. And I picked the Suns to win the series because they just smoked them during the regular season, and it felt like
that New Orleans matchup. That New Orleans Portland year with Anthony Davis, where it's like sometimes it's just a bad matchup, and that's what I think we both saw in this, but we were wrong.
And ultimately, though, the Timberwolves have proven that to be completely false. I mean, we'll see how things return to Phoenix, but I have no faith in the Suns at this point with the way in which the Wolves have played. I thought tonight was. It looks very bad for Phoenix because, as you said, Anthony Edwards was not great. Like he still was a positive player for the Wolves. He defended his ass off. He made life hard. Oh, he was great. He was awesome on Beal. I thought offensively, again, like he was in the first game, he was really good as a playmaker. He was decisive. He moved with purpose. He had a kick out in the second quarter, I think it was. Like Gobert on a short roll, kicked it out to Ant. He immediately just attacked, whipped it to Jaden McDaniels for a 3. I thought he was just good overall, even though he wasn't scoring. But ultimately, though, like this game for the Wolves was about everybody else. Jaden McDaniels in game 1 was awesome defending Devin Booker. Tonight, he actually defended Kevin Durant more than he defended Devin Booker. He was still equally impactful on defense in the same way that he was tonight on offense. Mike Conley stepping up, like that's something that it feels like the Suns are missing, is that point guard, like the guy to settle things down where it's your turn, my turn with the Suns. Whereas with Mike Conley, his second quarter, I thought he was the reason why the Wolves didn't allow the Suns to extend the lead, because that quarter the Suns were pretty good. Like I think they had a chance to extend the lead, but Conley scored or assisted on 15 of 22 points for the Wolves over a stretch, showing off everything he can do offensively. Lefty floater, righty floater, 3 off a screen, pull up out of a pick and roll. He had an extension layup. He did everything. And I thought that set up the Conley run, set up the third quarter where Edwards came to life a little bit late. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was scoring and playmaking. McDaniels was hitting everything, and that's when they extended
when
their
McDaniels
lead.
Plays like that, they're basically unbeatable.
They're incredible when McDaniels is like that.
That might be the only time this series when he plays like that. It's possible.
But ultimately, though, I mean, maybe not. I mean, he does have talent.
He does. I'm just saying, he's not. Yes. It was one of those games.
For sure. And I mean, this does serve as an example, though, when you look at the Wolves role players versus the Suns role players. Role players do matter here. When you don't have Ant going off, he's 3 for 12, and Cat was 3 for 7 in the game, and yet you smoke the opponent. That's because of McDaniels. It's because of Conley. It's because of Alexander Walker. And I was just watching the game tonight. I think so much about the draft. I'm thinking this is why I can't get behind the 2024 draft class stinks. Yes, it lacks star power, but this is a draft class that could be littered with star role players.
Guys who could have potentially played in this series. Yeah, you're
exactly.
right.
And I think tonight's game was, a good example of that. And by the way, the name we didn't even mention, Bill, Rudy Gobert. This is one of his Hall of Fame performances on defense. Gobert was incredible.
He was great.
He was amazing. He did everything. He dropped. He defended high in the pick and roll. He switched. Beal, Gobert, and Booker went 0 for 4 with 2 turnovers when he defended those guys man to man. Gobert was amazing, and he's really one of the main reasons why they're up 2-0 in the series.
I wrote down Minnesota can win without a good Edwards game. Who else can win without a good game from their star in a playoff game like this? And it's basically just them in Boston. I don't think Denver can win if Jokic sucks. Right? They would have to be like
45.
Yeah, Murray would have to. Well, I mean, it's a hypothetical because Jokic never sucks.
But, never does.
But for him to just really suck, I think it would be hard for them.
What about the Knicks, though? That Brunson has not been good through 2 games, and they're up 2-0. Does that not count because they're going against the Sixers team with, Embiid limited? And
yeah, I think it's that to me is a little more of an Embiid thing. But yeah, Brunson has not been good. You're right. The Knicks probably get thrown in there. But
how about the Thunder? If SGA has like a really off night, I think the Thunder maybe they could. They have
you need a lot of Jalen Williams. You need like the random Isaiah Joe 5 threes.
Yeah, I think they can get that.
They maybe.
I think OKC, Knicks, Celtics. So maybe about a quarter of the teams in the playoffs.
It's weirdly like it's almost a luxury when he has an awesome game. You assume he's going to be somewhere between 22 and 28, but they can still survive when he's not good, especially when he's passing like this. I wrote that down. This is why you need a point guard. The Suns, they were smarter than all of us, right? It was like we're just going to trade everything for Durant. We're going to be the team that takes Bradley Beal. We don't need role players. We're the team that's going to figure out Nurkic as a reliable center, and then you're watching it just fall apart. I'm holding a thought that I'm going to throw at you. I had one more Minnesota thing. Our guy Jason Goff, who hosts a Full Go, big week in Chicago. They're going to actually have a quarterback for the first time in Jason Goff's lifetime. He had this tweet, and I had to brew a special batch of settle down juice for him. Goff said it before, I'll say it again. Jaden McDaniels is my favorite defender to watch. I agree with that. And if he's going to chip in like this offensively in a playoff game, MJ might have found his Scotty. Jason, I'm sending you a 24-pack of settle down juice. Now, on paper, yeah, if Jaden McDaniels could average 23 a game, I could see it. But he was 10-5 this year. He's 23 years old. But it did make me think, love you, Goff, by the way. It did make me think, like, what more is left here for Jaden McDaniels offensively? Because he is young. And you figure, like, this is going to be him and Ant, probably Gobert for a few years, Naz Reid. We'll see if Towns stays or goes. But what's left for him offensively? Could he be more than a 10-5 guy?
Well, it's 2 things. It's last season, more so than this year, he showed off some flashes of, pull-up shooting ability from mid-range. And the hope was that would translate to a higher volume. It hasn't. This year, he shot, I believe, 35% on catch-and-shoot threes. Last year, he was better than that. He was closer to 40%. So it's him getting that number back up. So it's higher volume pull-ups from mid-range, kind of that secondary creation, and then it's just better shooting off the catch. I think those are the 2 main things you want to see from McDaniels moving forward with him. And if you get that, then maybe you get nights like this with more frequency. I don't think he's going to be the Pippen to MJ for Anthony Edwards, but I do think
it's a bold call. More. I liked it.
There is more to his game, though, and he's shown flashes. It's just about putting it together. And, I mean, that's what made it cool to see that tonight from him.
Well, I looked at his shot chart. I like ESPN when you can go to the shot chart. He made a couple threes, but a lot of his stuff was in the paint. And I think the thing I like about him, I like when he goes to the basket. I like when he just decisively drives. And I don't feel like he does that a lot. Maybe some of it has to do with Gobert's blocking the thing, but I think we all like him. it was funny when they traded for Gobert and then they put the stuff out. We told them Jaden McDaniels was off limits after they gave up like 18 first-round picks. It was like, congrats, you kept Jaden McDaniels. But he is good. All right, it's time. This is one of my big questions. Kyle might have to turn on the hotel room TikTok camera on. Are we going to be making up Devin Booker trades in late June?
Booker before Durant? Or both?
Durant can't get traded again. I can't handle that emotionally. I can't. Not again.
What does he have to lose?
Not again. Where's he going to go now?
He's already tarnished his reputation ever since leaving Golden State.
He's going to wander around the league and just find different teams.
He's liking posts about Chet on Instagram. It might be he wants to go back to OKC. I don't know if they'd want him back.
Phoenix calls New Orleans late June after they get swept by the Wolves here. Let's say let's go worst case scenario. They get swept. And it's like, oh man, Frank Vogel, you're the fall guy. But maybe that's not enough. They're in the room. It's Ishbia, who can't believe that he's traded all of his picks and he's a second apron team and he has 2 playoff victories in 2 years to show for it. Ishbia and whoever's inner circle is, they're like, let's call New Orleans. Griffin answers and he says, CJ McCollum and Trey Murphy, and throw us 2 future picks and you can have Booker.
I need more than that for Devin Booker.
I'm saying 2 good future firsts.
Give me 5 firsts.
5 first with Trey Murphy?
Yeah. I like Trey Murphy a hell of a lot, but he's a role player. You need more. So
you think he's a role player? I think he's more than a role player. I actually think he's...
I just don't know if the handling
potentially
there.
Special.
I think he should be shooting more than 8-9 threes a game. I think he should be like 12-13 shots per game from 3. The dude is a ridiculous lights out shooter. He's amazing. He attacks closeouts.
So how many firsts? You'd want 5 firsts.
Yeah, I'd want pretty much, everything back, that like I've given up for some of these other star players. I want 5, I want 6. For Devin Booker with the years left on his deal, how
many years are left though? I thought it was kind of getting a little, are we inching a little closer to the end there? 2026?
Let's look this up real quick. Booker is signed through 2028. So there's time.
Oh,
this was the first year of that new extension. So we had the new extension.
When we keep the TikTok video going, with that, we got to reflect that. Yeah. So it's with that many years on his contract, it's 4 or 5 firsts.
Yeah, I think
with CJ McCollum and Trey Murphy.
I mean, I'd be
who has a longer meeting.
I'd be intrigued from the Phoenix side of things of just blowing things up completely, considering if you do suffer a first-round loss, worst-case scenario sweep, you got to be looking at the drawing board saying there's literally nothing that we can do. You don't have future assets. You don't have young players to trade.
And you're not allowed to sign free agents because you're over the second apron.
Yes. And not only that, the swaps that you've already traded, sometimes you've traded the swaps twice, further diminishing the value of your pick swaps. Like they've tried to get creative with the limited amount of assets they have, but they got nothing to make significant moves. And this is a fundamentally flawed team. The only counter I would have to you there, Bill, is instead of trading Devin Booker at 28 years old, you're probably not trading Beal either. He has a no trade clause and he doesn't have great value anyway. If you did decide to trade Kevin Durant again, he's the guy that would still have some value. He's still really good. He's still a top 10 to 15 player in the league. Maybe flipping KD
36 next year.
He's old. Maybe flipping him into multiple pieces and picks is something that could be mutually beneficial for your team and the receiving team. To me, like I still want to hang on to Booker. He's in the first year of his deal. It's too soon for me to give up on Devin Booker, especially given the fact that you don't own your own picks moving forward. So if you suck or you're stuck in the middle, like where are you exactly? You still want to compete. So I'd still want to hang on to Devin Booker at this point.
What if you traded Booker and Durant? What if you traded Durant to the Warriors? I don't know. This is the kind of stuff. The point is, I was thinking about this stuff during the fourth quarter of that game where I was like, wow. This is now officially like we're in blow it upville, as you would call it.
It is entering that neighborhood because of the fact they have nothing that they can do. And ultimately it should be
at the stop sign going, wait, is that a right turn to blow it up, Phil?
If you are Devin Booker specifically, I think if you're the Suns, you want to hang on to these guys. You have nothing else you can do. You want to compete and hope you get lucky. But if you're Devin Booker specifically, you're like, I'm 28 years old. I'm an all NBA caliber player. I'm an all-star. I've been to a finals. I've flourished on the biggest stages. Do I really want to be here? If you're Booker, I think those thoughts begin entering your mind this summer, because why would they not? It's only natural when you're a competitor like that, when you have his mindset. So I think for Booker, he should be thinking about it, but I think it's too soon. It's 1 year too soon. But 1 year from now, I think it's very reasonable for something that big and that massive, a blow it up situation to occur for the Suns. But we're nearing the point that they should think about it.
I'm glad we talked it out. It would be interesting if they did a Booker trade and a Durant trade and just said, F it. We won 2 playoff games with these guys in 2 years. It didn't work. God, we're moving on. Let's get our picks back.
Think about the good vibes of this team just a couple of years ago. Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, up and coming team.
So if they're not bright future Suns, what are they?
The bleak future Suns. The
sad sack Suns.
We just pull out a thesaurus and pull out a whole bunch of words here for Phoenix. I feel bad for Suns fans because things were so bad for a while and then they got really good and really optimistic and they got good fast. And now you're in this position. It's awful. It really is awful because it feels like if you're ranking teams with the bleakest futures, they're in the top 5, right? Like who else is there? The Bulls. They're there.
Well,
the Wizards.
I'm not ready
it's
to
bad teams.
I'm not ready to say that until we see how this round 1 plays out. Because there's a chance they go to Phoenix and they play awesome, and we're like, oh, the Suns. Here we go.
Sure.
But it was the first time I started really thinking, like, holy shit. Like, this could get bad. What if Booker just says, get me the fuck out of here?
Mm-hmm. But to your point, if they get swept or lose in 5, like within that context, it's like.
To put a bow in this, I don't think they would trade Devin Booker unless he was like, I'm unhappy. I'd like to be traded.
I agree.
And then even then, I don't know if they would trade him. I think the Knicks would be a possibility for that. The Knicks have still held all their stuff for some sort of mega deal. Miami would be possibility, so on and so on. Durant, that one gets tougher if you start thinking about they get swept, this gets ugly. Where does Durant go? And all roads maybe lead back to Golden State. Who knows? Well, maybe they'll win. Maybe they'll win Game 3, and
by the
this
way,
will sound like a dumb conversation.
KD only next year left on his contract as well. Just 1 year left on his.
Oof. Who would have thought Kyrie would be in a better spot than Kevin Durant? What were the odds of that a year ago?
I don't know. Things seem really good with Kyrie right now.
We are. This was the crazy ownership series, by the way. There was all that stuff about the Minnesota non-sale today. Joe Pompliano wrote a really good piece about it. And so you have that. And then you have Ishbia on the other end, who's like new owner syndrome personified. It was they're battling for the weird ownership belt.